next episode. Today, we're diving into a fascinating topic that bridges archaeology, biblical history, and theology, the true location of Mount Sinai, where Moses received the Ten Commandments. For centuries, the traditional site has been Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, but recent research points to a mountain in northwestern Saudi Arabia called Jabal al-Lawz. Chloe, what makes this mountain stand out compared to the traditional site?
Thanks, Liam. Jabal al-Lawz, which means Mountain of Almonds in Arabic, rises about 8,400 feet in the Tabuk region of Saudi Arabia. Unlike the Sinai Peninsula, this mountain has compelling archaeological and geographical features that align closely with the biblical narrative. For example, there's the famous split rock of Horeb, a massive rock about 12 meters tall, split cleanly down the middle with clear signs of water erosion at its base. This matches the account in Exodus 17, verse 6, where Moses struck the rock to bring forth water for the Israelites.
That's a striking detail. A 12-meter tall rock split down the middle is not something you'd easily overlook. And the water erosion suggests a significant flow of water, which fits the biblical description perfectly. But what about the mountain's peak? I've heard it's blackened or charred, which seems unusual.
Exactly. The summit of Jabal al-Lawz is notably blackened, almost scorched, which corresponds with biblical descriptions of Mount Sinai burning with fire and smoke, like in Exodus 19, verse 18, and Deuteronomy 4, verse 11. Some geologists argue this blackening is due to volcanic basalt, but here's the catch. There are no volcanoes, lava fields, or volcanic features nearby. The mountain itself is tectonic, formed by folding and compression, not volcanic activity.
So the volcanic explanation doesn't hold up geologically. That leaves the possibility that the blackened rocks are the result of intense burning, charcoal, and ash residues from fire. That's a compelling correlation with the biblical account of fire and smoke on the mountain. It's rare to find such a physical feature that matches a scriptural description so closely.
Absolutely, and it's not just the peak. At the base of Jabal al-Lawz, archaeologists have uncovered man-made altars made from uncut stones, exactly as God commanded in Exodus 20, verse 25. Excavations revealed ash, animal bones, and charcoal, clear signs of sacrificial activity. Nearby, there are remnants of 12 stone pillars, which align with Exodus 24, verse 4, where Moses built 12 pillars representing the 12 tribes of Israel.
That's remarkable. The presence of these altars and pillars not only supports the biblical narrative, but also suggests a significant, organized human presence. And the 12 pillars as boundary markers fit with the command in Exodus 19, verses 12 to 13, warning people not to approach the mountain. It's like the site is a snapshot of that ancient moment.
Exactly. Adding to that, there are petroglyphs, rock carvings, around the base depicting bulls and calves, which many scholars link to the golden calf incident in Exodus 32. There are also carvings of archers, which echo the biblical warning that anyone who touched the mountain would be shot with arrows. These carvings are unique in Arabia and provide visual evidence of ancient worship and ritual activity consistent with the biblical account.
The petroglyphs are a fascinating piece of the puzzle. They're not just random art, but seem directly connected to the events described in Exodus. And what about Elijah's cave? I recall the Bible mentions Elijah finding shelter in a cave on Mount Horeb.
Yes, in 1 Kings 19, Elijah flees to Mount Horeb, another name for Sinai, and finds refuge in a cave where he experiences God's presence. Jabal al-Lawz has a large, accessible cave on its front face that matches the biblical description in size and location. It's about 15 feet high, 20 feet wide, and 20 feet deep, tapering toward the back. This cave would have provided a safe shelter for Elijah, making it a significant geographical marker, supporting the mountain's identification as Sinai.
So the cave adds another layer of evidence. And beyond these features, are there signs of a large population camped in the area? The Bible describes millions of Israelites staying at Sinai for nearly a year.
Yes, that's a critical point. Archaeological finds around Jabal al-Lawz include ancient fire pits, grindstones, tent site remnants, animal bones, and various tools and utensils. These artifacts indicate a large group lived there for an extended period, consistent with the biblical account of 2 to 3 million people camping at Sinai.
Taken together, these features, the split rock, blackened peak, altars, pillars, petroglyphs, Elijah's cave, and evidence of a large encampment, make a compelling case for Jabal al-Lawz as the true Mount Sinai. But what about the journey of the Israelites after crossing the Red Sea? How does that fit geographically?
After crossing the Red Sea, the Israelites landed on the Arabian shore. They traveled for 3 days without finding water until they reached Marah, where the water was bitter. Moses cast a tree into the water, making it sweet, as described in Exodus 15, verse 25. Then they moved on to Elim, where they found 12 wells of water and 70 palm trees, camping there for several days, as in Exodus 15, verse 27. These locations correspond geographically to the region near Jabal al-Lawz, reinforcing the Saudi Arabian location theory.
That's interesting. So the biblical narrative of Marah and Elim aligns with actual geographical features in that area. And the Israelites' complaints about hunger and God's provision of manna also fit into this journey?
Exactly. The people began to worry about food after a month in the wilderness, even though God was providing manna daily. This story highlights the spiritual lesson of reliance on God during hardship, a theme that resonates throughout the Exodus journey.
Shifting gears a bit, there's also that remarkable archaeological find in New Mexico, the ancient carving of the Ten Commandments on Hidden Mountain near Albuquerque. Chloe, can you tell us more about that?
Certainly. This inscription predates the Pilgrims' arrival in 1620, Columbus's landing in 1492, and even Leif Erikson's exploration around 995. It's written in Paleo-Hebrew, the ancient script used by Moses and early Israelites until about 500 BC. The inscription is on an 80-ton boulder and includes the Hebrew name of God, Jehovah, emphasizing the permanence and authority of God's law.
Paleo-Hebrew is fascinating because it was the language of Abraham and Israel before the Babylonian captivity. After the exile, Jews adopted Aramaic, and Paleo-Hebrew fell out of use. By the time of Christ, it was almost forgotten, which explains why Jesus, crying the cross in this language, confused onlookers.
Right. Interestingly, the inscription also includes 2 ancient Greek letters, indicating the carver was educated in both languages. This suggests the inscription dates to sometime before 500 BC, but after Greek culture spread widely. The text is a summary of the Ten Commandments, reinforcing the idea that God's law was known and respected far beyond the ancient Near East.
Some might be skeptical about the authenticity of this inscription. What evidence supports its legitimacy?
Several points. First, locals have known about the inscription since the early 1800s, long before modern archaeological interest. Second, there's no commercial or fame-driven motive attached to the site, no museums or tours. Third, multiple scholarly studies have examined the inscription and concluded it's authentic. It's not a hoax.
That's compelling. The presence of the Ten Commandments in America centuries before European colonization challenges some common assumptions about biblical influence in the New World.
Indeed, it suggests a far-reaching influence of biblical law and its historical depth. It also raises interesting questions about ancient transoceanic contacts, though that's a topic for another day.
Now, moving to the theological side, the document argues strongly that God's law is still binding today. How does it make that case?
The argument is that rejecting God's law leads to moral decay and social disorder. Historical examples like the French Revolution show the chaos that ensues when atheism and lawlessness prevail. The document points out that God's law is the foundation of all government and morality. Without it, society would collapse into violence, injustice, and corruption.
And we see echoes of that today. Corruption, crime, family breakdown, and general moral decline. The document suggests that obedience to God's law isn't about restriction, but about protection, justice, and blessing.
Exactly. It quotes Isaiah 58, verse 12, about restoring the foundations of many generations, linking it to the call to uphold God's law. The law provides a standard that condemns the guilty and justifies the obedient, maintaining order and righteousness.
Finally, let's recap the Ten Commandments themselves, as given in Exodus 20, verses 3 to 17. They remain timeless, right?
Absolutely. They include prohibitions against other gods, idols, misuse of God's name, and commands to keep the Sabbath holy, honor parents, and refrain from murder, adultery, theft, false witness, and coveting. These commandments form the moral foundation for Judeo-Christian ethics and continue to be relevant today.
And the archaeological and historical evidence we discussed reinforces their reality and authority. It's not just ancient texts, but a living guide to righteous living and relationship with God.
Well said. So, to sum up, the evidence at Jabal al-Lawz strongly supports it as the true Mount Sinai, with features like the split rock, blackened peak, altars, petroglyphs, and Elijah's cave aligning closely with Scripture. The ancient Ten Commandments inscription in New Mexico reveals the far-reaching influence of biblical law, and the law of God remains relevant and binding, with profound implications for individuals and society.
Thanks for exploring this with me, Chloe. It's been enlightening to see how faith, history, and archaeology intersect in such meaningful ways.
Likewise, Liam. I hope our listeners find these insights as thought-provoking as we do. Until next time.